Welcome to In 20XX. This series takes the listener, year by year, into the future. Ride the wave of change. If you like emerging tech, ecotech, futurism, skepticism, apocalyptic survival scenarios, and disruptive science, sit back and enjoy short stories that showcase my research into how the future may play out.
In the early morning in deep woods, Penn steps over moss-covered rubble and thick vegetation. He doesn't recognize many of the plants, but the greens and grays soothe his eyes. A new kind of tree has come to dominate. Instead of keeping to itself like other trees, it sends its branches among the branches of other trees. It's a tree that acts like a weed. No one has a name for the new tree. Its baby shoots can grow on rock and stretch roots far to reach the soil. Penn found one sapling growing off the side of a partly buried carbcore fender. In the fall, its rubbery leaves cover the ground. Are the new plants resurrected from dinosaur times? Their colors and textures seem to come from another time. This area used to be a neighborhood of Detroit, so rubble remains of streets and buildings hide under the forest. Penn climbs spalling concrete steps rounded over by a thick layer of leaf litter. The side of a brown and corroded fire hydrant protrudes from a tree trunk. On NPR, Penn heard that an eco-terrorist group is responsible for the rapid forestation of unattended lands from coast to coast. What may sound harmless is an ecological disaster. When humans with AI can speed up and direct evolution, they can make invasive plants that upend local ecosystems. Investigators believe one group is responsible because the engineered plants bear the same DNA alterations. As an example, rubisco is an enzyme responsible for taking CO2 from the air and starting the process of turning it into food. Original rubisco is slow, hundreds of times slower than other enzymes, and makes mistakes that the plant must spend sometimes a third of its energy fixing. So rubisco is a bottleneck slowing plant growth to a crawl. AI-assisted humans have evolved faster rubisco variants that make fewer mistakes. The updated plants grow 5 times faster. The harmful, illegal GM plants all use the same rubisco variant. The group also spliced the same bacteria-derived DNA that gives plants the ability to fix their nitrogen, so the plants can make their own fertilizer. Who doesn't like to see a thick, thriving forest? Some claim the forestation of America has replaced the depleted Amazon forest as Earth's lungs. But the forest Penn climbs through has crowded out local plants and reduced variety and complexity. What ill-conceived intentions lead such a group to wage a plant-on-plant war? Penn steps over a motorbike so encrusted in soil and rocks it looks like a fossil. His AR glasses place icons over spots in the terrain. Rabbit icons show where small animals hide. These may be rabbits, cats, raccoons, small dogs, or foxes. Sensors in his glasses pick up smells. Software uses smell and wind data to determine where animals exhale carbon. Sound data is also used. Tiny sounds animals make can be interpreted with great accuracy. His glasses tag plant types as well. Hiking to a tag for stinging nettle, he puts on his gloves and takes out his scissors. Reaching the nettle, he snips the plants and puts them in his basket pack on his back. Instead of taking all the nettle, he leaves half of it. After filling his basket with high-nutrient plants, he rides into Sumptown, a squatter neighborhood, on his electric bike. He tries not to have a heavy heart. Because they stopped shooting clouds of moon dust between the sun and Earth, the threat of climate disaster lurks. An upstart company installed emergency rent-a-shelters and parking spaces nearly on every block. The red boxes allow you admittance for 24 hours for a couple of $100, in an age when a week's groceries cost $10. In a playground, a team of bots put up a weather tower. A group builds a rock wall around their house. Dirt piles grow near the roads and in empty lots, made as people dig shelters under their houses. False alarms throw the city into panic. A femme was trampled downtown when crowds fled for the nearest shelters. Canada has closed its borders. Every day brings news of people tranquilized while trying to cross the border. Canadian Border Patrol copters and blimps hang in the sky. A viral comedian jokes, "Guys, stay where you are. Do you really think you're going to outrun the climate? Has he done all he can to prepare? If he just knew ahead of time. If it were just him, he'd try to get to Alaska. A new study has come out. For those who were able to ride the tech jobs wave through the process of automating most jobs, there's a chart of levels of wealth related to how long people were able to hold a job before it was replaced. On the highest tier, there are the 1% trillionaires who own the companies. These people have more power than rulers of countries. With access to longevity treatment, they're some of the oldest people still maintaining active lifestyles. Some are household names while others are little known. They own the media and the internet. They own the most advanced AI. They own the billions of robots that have replaced the human workers of the world. Hold tight. We have to drop far down to reach the second highest tier of wealth, held by those who improved automation and ran things such as CEOs. These workers kept their jobs by advancing while lower-level jobs evaporated. They rose to the highest level until AI learned to create, improve, and run companies without human aid. People in this group were retired about a year ago. They can afford many homes, private robot staff, and condos in space. They own an amount of wealth that should last for generations. Many have visited the moon and stayed in undersea resorts. Yachts, brain copies of famous people, and old movie set locations are some of their favorite purchases. The third tier of wealth is filled with those who oversaw automated companies, troubleshot operations, and repaired and maintained robot systems. They cashed their last paycheck 2 to 3 years ago. Repairing robots before robots repaired robots has allowed them to comfortably retire. Still young, they enjoy costs that continue to fall, giving them a sense that the wealth they have grows each year. Members of this group can live in mansions on large properties and own sky cranes. People in the fourth tier worked until their jobs were replaced early on. They're moderately rich to poor depending on how long they worked and what they've done with savings. On average, they live comfortably in neighborhood complex condos. To vacation, they go camping or house sit. This study is criticized for leaving out 90% of the population, but it's limited to those who helped automate the economy. Jobs still exist. Most people find some way of earning money. The growth of automated jobs has left behind some very wealthy retirees who have most of their adulthoods to enjoy their wealth. The study was conducted by Beta Look the AI, driving search predictions that's accurately predicted the last 3 presidential elections. In a rec zone next to Ferndale, NC in Detroit, Priz and Laramie ride their walking chairs through the crowd. The walking chairs raise the couple's heads above pedestrians. Each chair has 3 legs, 2 in the front and 1 in the back. They're a sign of wealth and a fast mode of travel acceptable in crowds and stores. They move silently and their footpads lightly land. If a child wanders where the chairs are stepping, no one bats an eye. The chairs easily avoid hitting anyone. Laramie rides in the front. He pats his bulging arm muscles made so by meds and angles his head back, eyeing the crowd. His white and yellow outfit would be appropriate for a day of golf with a senator. His smile seems to say, "Of course I'm better than you." And why wouldn't he think that? Just look around. These grubby people probably sell their pee to data farming companies. Don't they know that single-used clothing means you only wear the clothes for 1 day? He tries not to laugh. All the DIY shit laid out on the tables shows how mediocre the average human creator can be. Yeah, these people no longer need to work 40 hours each week, so they spend all that free time making crap. The future of the human race, makers of arts and crafts for landfills. Priz's glasses are frosted over as she talks to someone over her link. Her blonde hair is so perfect it looks like a wig. She practically shouts, "I don't know. To be honest, I can't see what all the fuss about rec zones is all about. It looks like a glorified yard sale if you ask me. These people are so out of it, know what I mean? I just want to run around handing out bodybuilding meds. Ha ha, that was a good joke." Her long gloves are the feel of silk, and because they're screens, they broadcast a live display of smoke patterns. 3 circus performers walk by on stilts reaching down to hand out flyers. When one hands her a flyer, she doesn't take it. Against a graffiti wall, 20 people draped in long robes, opaque veils, and long red gloves hold up banners that show Earth on black backgrounds. The couple pass under the shadow of a new weather alert tower with sensors and loudspeaker horns, level with third-story windows. They pass robots boxing in an outdoor ring. 2 femmes standing on a walking quadruped bot sing, "Come to our show tonight, a play you may never forget." Laramie covers his nose. Priz says, "I smell something burning." Kids wearing slick shoes skate around. A new material on the soles of the shoes enables wearers to skate on weave pavement as easily as someone sliding on ice. As one femme walks, a plastic bottle falls out of her backpack. As she turns, other items fall out of her pack. She stops and takes her pack off to find the zipper open. Others stop to pick up her fallen items and hand them to her. Laramie says, "I see it. The restaurant is over there." Priz says over Link, "Did she say that? I knew she doesn't like children." Laramie doesn't react to his wife not hearing him. If her chair didn't follow his, they would drift apart, and she wouldn't notice. The restaurant on the first floor of an apartment building has all the window glass folded to the side. The bot-painted sign hanging over the door says, "3 pigs." Priz and Laramie hop off their chairs, which remain by a bike rack. They approach a group outside the door. Priz says, "Oh no, we're not going to wait in line. Mixed Tricks didn't wait in line." A scuffed Luton bot wearing an apron takes names at the door. Priz pushes past Laramie and the strangers in line and calls out to the Luton bot, "Excuse, we're visiting from Dicio NC. I'm sure you've heard of, huh? So you probably have a table for us." The Luton bot doesn't seem to hear her as it continues to speak to a femme in the front of the line. "And how many?" The femme wearing a simple blue dress says 5. The Luton bot says, "Oh, a table just opened. Please go inside and you'll be seated." Laramie scoffs, "So much for service." Priz says, "They already get a 1 star." 5 minutes later, when they're seated, Priz's face burns red. She and Laramie stand out in the crowded venue. The couple's glasses partly frost over as they look at the menu. Laramie says, "The Indian-Hawaiian fusion is supposed to be good." Priz says, I can't focus with all the damn kids. I didn't know I'd be eating lunch in a daycare." "Huh." Laramie taps the air and his glasses clear. "Haven't you decided?" She says, "Hold on, I'm seeing what Mixed Tricks ordered." She swipes and air taps, her glasses clear. "Okay, fine," he says. "The markets have been quite ebullient as of late." She resumes her conversation with her online friend. "Hi, I'm back. Help me, please. I'm sitting in the middle of a homeless camp. It's just so diverse here. I don't exaggerate." "Huh." His voice gets louder. "As I was saying, the markets have been quite ebullient as of late. Plenty of opportunity for savvy investors." She says, "Yes, I'll take this photo stamp, thank you, but I wish these people would leave. I'll have Goggle take them out of the pic. Honestly, I just feel uncomfortable, know what I mean? Like I'm sitting in a dumpster." "Ha!" From far away, a low siren wails and raises in pitch as it continues. Half the adults in the restaurant move their heads as they receive AR notices. On the other side of the open-air windows, the crowds in the street change mood. People on corners drop their signs and hurry off. Parents gather up children. A live horn performer stops mid-song. From behind the counter, 2 young girls wearing flour-dusted aprons duck under the hinged countertop. They split up and approach adults at each table. When each gets the attention of an adult, they quietly convey a message. One of the girls is about to approach Priz and Laramie, but a man behind the counter calls out, "Trudy?" The girl turns and looks. He points at the couple and shakes his head. She walks around Priz and Laramie's table and talks to an adult at the next table. Laramie says, "What's taking so long? This is incompetent." Priz talks over Link. "You must tell me the next time you'll attend the same event Mixed Tricks does. I still haven't forgiven you for leaving me out last time." The Luton bot walks to the front and closes the door. The hinged countertop is swung open. Families leave their tables and walk from the dining area to behind the counter. The bright sunlight outside darkens. A hot wind gust blows hats from heads and items off the tables. Sirens nearer to the restaurant start the low wail that climbs in pitch. People outside are running. People in the restaurant are crowding the counter, opening and pushing their way to the back. Examining his fingernails, Laramie says, "Should I have this place closed? I'm sure I could file to have it closed." Pris says, "Where is everyone? Gracie, hold on. I'll call you back." Laramie says, "Assist, end sound filtering." They look around. They're the only ones in the dining area. Even the Luton bot server is nowhere to be seen. Meanwhile, each gust of wind blows harder than the last. The loitering crowds on the street have vanished, and only the occasional person or group runs down the street. Laramie stands. He says, "Hold on here." He can hear the weather sirens wailing throughout the city. Pris slowly gets to her feet. They both walk toward the nearest window and are pushed back by a hot gust. The day has grown so dark that the LED candles on the table are the brightest lights. Rainfall drops from the sky in sheets. In seconds, puddles and streams form on the street and swirl around flash flood drains. Laramie points and says, "The countertop is open." They walk to the counter. Hesitantly, they pass through. In the kitchen, they find a floor panel pulled up and a heavy-duty door in the floor. Laramie kneels and knocks on the door. "Hello? Are you people in there?" Debris hitting the sides of the building makes all kinds of crashing sounds with increasing frequency and volume. A wind pushes through the kitchen, knocking the pair over. They roll across the floor and cower in a corner. As the building breaks apart in the first wave of the storm, the walls fold over on the couple and smash them like bugs underfoot. Hazel stands in a doorway. She takes a bottle of Forest Life and sprays it all over herself. It contains forest microbes. Because the microbes come from an environment hardly visited by humans, they don't target humans. Studies show that it improves health and eliminates foul smells. To her, it smells like fresh soil and rain. Penn has teased her about using the spray, saying, "All you have to do is wear some of my clothes if you want to smell like the forest." Perhaps what draws her to him also makes her like the spray. Maybe she likes the smell of forest microbes. Is that such a crazy idea? She wears her thickest sweater over tights. Her movements are light. With large eyes, her delicate features at times look severe. Ash and Rose, their children, sit on the carpet. Ash, 3, plays with AR toys, and Rose talks with her AI tutor. Rose adores her tutor and therefore learns a lot for her age. She can already multiply from 1 times 1 to 12 times 12. She can list the 50 states and read at first grade level. She's only 4 years old. Hazel has mixed feelings about Poppy, the AI tutor for girls. On the one hand, it's amazing that children Rose's age learn so much more than any children in history. Poppy for girls and Felix for boys match children's learning styles. Rose just started using Poppy. Children older than Rose show signs of genius, and these are just your average children. Nothing special about them. In this age, what hope do young people have if they can't learn? On the other hand, Rose has called Poppy her very best friend many times. She's emotionally hooked on Poppy, whispering secrets to her and crying to her when she doesn't get her way in RL. Can it be healthy for such a young girl to want to do nothing but spend time with Poppy? Rosebelly laughs and says, "You're so funny, Poppy." At least the AI gets her to learn. The guy down the hall got married to his AI girlfriend last year, but he still gives Hazel a smile that creeps her out when she sees him in the hall. At the co-op, there's a recovery group for people addicted to game NPCs. Are Penn and Hazel making it even worse for Rose's generation by getting them hooked at their most formative age? The company that maintains Poppy promises that children will outgrow the tutors and remember them as inspiring teachers who helped them become their best selves. Fingers crossed. Hazel jumps as a red banner flashes and Assist says, "Warning, a flash storm is hitting your area. Get to shelter now." She makes a hand signal that closes all apps and says, "Ash, Rose, the storm we talked about is happening." Rose says, "Mom, Poppy's frozen." Hazel says, "Close her. Assist, call Penn." Her line rings once and Penn says, "I'm coming." First one siren wails, joined by more from different locations in the city. She says, "Where are you? When can you get here?" As Penn and Hazel run around the condo pulling bug-out equipment down from high shelves and out from the back of closets, they're on group chat with people from their co-op. When members speak, their video feed pops up on the sides of Penn and Hazel's vision. Alenren says, "Guys, I'm on the other side of town. What do I do?" A Wenzel says, "Where are you exactly?" "There's a city shelter 5 blocks from you." Penn lines up the bug-out trailers and follow carts. Hazel piles goods in the hall and says, "Assist, pack these in the follow carts." Their shiny new Luton bot steps into the hall, takes items from the pile and fits them into a follow cart. In the other room, Ash starts crying. Penn says, "Assist, keep Ash company." Hazel punches his arm and says, "Rose, take care of your brother." Rose says, "What happened to Poppy? Why can't I open her?" Penn says, "I need to get the essential microbes." Hazel says, "Are you sure? We have enough food here for days." Penn says, "I'll meet you on the street." Winds ram the window glass. On the call, a Belinda says, "You guys, Stumptown City Shelter is full. I repeat, Stumptown City Shelter is all full. They aren't letting anyone else in." She switches POV to show the inside of an auditorium-sized room packed nearly to standing room with scared people. Many people on the call talk over each other saying things like, "Are you sure?" and "No, that can't be. There's supposed to be enough room for everyone." When Penn leaves, the air pressure in the building causes the door to slam shut. Hazel does a last search through the pantries. Assist says, "Your Luton bot has finished packing." She says, "Hook the trailers to the follow carts." She runs into the living room where Rose holds Ash on her lap. They play with AR blocks. Hazel says, "Kids, come with me." "Penn, did you hear about the city shelter?" Penn's face appears. The lighting on his face changes and he moves through his food lab gathering supplies. He says, "The substreets, we can go to the nearest substreet." Hazel takes a breath and says, "Yes, of course, we'll be right down." She loads the children into one of the trailers. Supplies in the trailer leave little room next to the kids' seats. She says, "You guys, this will be fun. We're going on an adventure outing, okay?" They both look stunned. Ash stares at her. Rose nods slowly. Hazel shuts the trailer dome lid and says, "Everyone, follow me." The two follow carts, each pulling trailers, and the Luton bot follow her into the hall. They take the elevator. On the street, the hot air catches in her throat. Penn meets her, carrying a box of little jars. Giant dark clouds move overhead. Twigs and leaves spin and flip through the air. Panicked people run down the street. She says, "There's no room for that." He says, "I'll carry it." A close friend who lives in the same building says, "Penn and Hazel, I'm down the street at the nearest ramp to the substreet. Lines are formed outside." He switches his feed to what he sees. It's a ramp for cars to drive from the above-ground roads to the subterranean roadways. And a crowd of people covers the road and extends down the block. Hazel and Penn look at each other as they both slow their pace. Sirens wail loudly. People, dogs, robots, and bikes speed down the streets. Wet leaves hit their faces. Shingles fly off a roof and flip through the air before hitting the ground and breaking apart. The darkest rain clouds they've ever seen move past at alarming speeds. Hazel says, "Where do we go?" Some of the people on the group call who are on the other side of town react to the storm. A Trenton shouts, "Oh shit, the building is flooding. The walls are shaking. Are you seeing this?" A Souza says, "Help, I'm in an Autono cab and it just stopped." A giant branch crushes the roof of the car and she screams. Penn says, "I thought of this." Hazel arches an eyebrow and says, "You thought of this." Wearing his bug-out vest, he pulls a mini jack out of one of several pockets. Running back the way they came, he says, "Follow me." When they catch up, Penn stands next to a utility service box sitting back from the road. Heavy sheets of rain come down, and the blasts of wind make it hard to see. The kids' cries can be heard coming from inside the trailer. Hazel's community call goes out. She swipes to bring up a menu, but nothing happens. She says, "I just lost my link." The water on the street flows over her feet. Penn fits the skinny end of the mini jack under a locking handle. He shouts, "This is an entrance to the flood tunnels." With rapid jerky movements, he turns a crank. Hazen kneels by the trailer the children are in. She holds onto the trailer as random items hit her, and the wind shoves everyone and everything back and forth. With an ear-splitting crack, the handle breaks off. Penn pulls the door open. Inside, rung stairs lead down. He shouts, "Get in, I'll hand you the kids." She steps into the box as he opens the lid on the trailer and lifts Ash out. She takes Ash down. He howls piteously and pinches her skin where he clings to her. Lights switch on as they descend. About 2 stories down, she finds solid ground on a ledge that goes along the flash flood canal. Swirling water rushes down the canal. Penn climbs down with Rose and hands her to Hazel. He says, "Scoot back, I'm going to drop the carts and trailers down." Hazel stands and moves away from the ladder where water pours and splashes on the floor. Both children whimper. With a crash, the first follow cart hits the floor. The Luton bot climbs down and pulls it to the side. As Penn drops the next cart and then the trailers, the bot pulls each one to the side. Hazel waits for Penn, but he doesn't come down. She says, "Penn, where are you?" Her internet isn't working. She screams, "Penn!" No answer. The wind makes whistling sounds in the ladder well and flood grates. She party gets up. "Penn!" She hardly hears him shouting down the ladder well, "There are people out here. I'm calling them over here." She cries out, "Get down here now!" He struggles not to slip as he climbs down carrying the box of essential microbes. Water drains from the box when he sets it down. He walks over to them and moves his face close to Hazel. She slaps his face, smiling at him. All the lights go out. He says, "Did your night vision switch on?" She says, "No, my link isn't working." He hands her something and says, "Use this." She feels that it's a flashlight and switches it on. Penn pulls the battered carts and trailers against the wall. He says, "Luton, step away from the water." The Luton bot stands against the wall. The air gets hotter and hotter. The storm pulls at the flood grates and howls like an angry giant. It sounds like multiple head-on collisions smashing one after the next. Trees tearing, bricks pelting buildings, trucks side-rolling, and all manner of horrifying sounds terrorize the children and make them jump. A block further up the floodway, wind pulls the road up. Wind sucks air through the floodway at harrowing speeds, pulling the family and their things away from the wall. Hazel moves her and the kids against the wall. Penn says, "Luton, move our stuff against the wall." Water drenches the family. The wind pulls debris through the hole in the road above. A man cries out as the floodwaters wash him down the canal. Penn runs to a door on the other side of the ladder. When he turns the knob, the door burst open, throwing him back. If he hadn't hung onto the knob, he'd have fallen into the rushing water. He shouts, "In here!" He runs and grabs Ash and helps Hazel to her feet and says, "Luton, take everything in here." When inside the long, vault-like room, Penn struggles to pull the door shut. They make puddles on the dusty floor. The kids cry hysterically as everyone huddles together. In the back of the room, 20 city bipedal bots stand erect and lined up perfectly, 4 rows of 5. While they wait for the storm to subside, they unpack and set all their things on the floor. They light camp lamps and start up the hydrogen power generator that makes pure water as a byproduct. Rod and wire shelved hold tools for the bots, parts, and supplies like giant spools of fiber cable. A rat pokes its nose out a drain hole near the floor and sniffs. They dry off, change clothes, and hang their clothes off the shelves. But the clothes don't dry and their sweat makes the dripping wet again. He helps her install Medusa decentralized internet service on her link. She tries making a few searches and says, "I'm not getting anything." He says, "You can do a personal web crawl to see what we can get. I found a collection of survival books. It's not organized, but it has a lot of stuff we can use, like first aid, a prepper wiki, and repair manuals." She frowns and shuts her eyes tight. He places his hand on her knee and says, "Hey, it's going to be okay." He does his best to smile like he means it. The storm makes a lot of noise on the other side of the door, but they set their canal links to cancel the noise. Hazel helps the kids do it. Penn's long jacket inflates so it can be ridden during a flash flood. He inflates it, lays it on the floor, and Rose and Ash sleep on it. Penn and Hazel sit in one of the open and emptied bug-out trailers, eating from the same plate and sharing a bottled water. She says, "What will it be like after the storm? So much will be destroyed. We'll all need to rebuild. The death rate must be high." Penn says, "We'll have to pull people together." They try to reach people online, but can only connect with people within a radius of a few kilometers. Hazel says, "My family is in North Dakota. Maybe the storm won't hit them." Penn says, "I'm not sure where my brother is. I hope soon we can reach everyone." They sit silent, dazed for at least an hour. Penn says, "I have samples of all my microbes here. If I keep them alive, we can get back on our feet in no time." They plug a liquid sunlight machine into the generator. The machine takes in water and carbon from the air and makes oxygen and acetate. The acetate can grow some plants without sunlight, but it's better at feeding engineered microbes. The machine turns electricity into plant and microbe food. He organizes all his unlocked engineered microbe cultures, feeds them, and tests them for integrity. Hazel walks over to the worker bots standing like statues. They stand a few centimeters shorter than her and don't have heads. Various tools fitted to their exterior, probably attached to the ends of their arms. As Penn kneels over containers on the floor, she says, "They're dusty, but I think these have never been used." Ash and Ruth wake up and eat. Ash's mood has improved, but Ruth remains heartbroken because she can't reach Poppy. She moans, "Will I ever see Poppy again?" A week later, the storm hasn't stopped or even lost strength. They can still hear it, and when they open the door, any loose item in the room becomes airborne. Food and clean water run low. The hydrogen generator doesn't output enough water. The children fight, and Rose acts up, accusing her parents of taking Poppy away from her. She was never such a monster before they introduced her to Poppy. They save food containers and leave the storage room to fill them with storm water. Penn adds liquid sunlight and a microbe culture to the dirty water, and after a day they can drink it. The microbes lock impurities in micro-thin shells they grow around in the inner surfaces of the containers. With a landing net, they pull leaves and twigs out of the water flowing down the flood canal. The winds push and pull at them on the landing, so Penn makes a horizontal lifeline system with rope and carabiners. Back in the storage space, they cut the plant matter into small pieces and place them in containers with microbes that turn them into foods. The fungi milk is 93% identical to cow's milk. The same can be said for the fungi-grown beef, bacon, tuna, eggs, tomato, corn, banana, and much more. It's very hot, so they cook the meat in a hydrogen-powered camp stove that they placed in a utility cable tube not far from the storage room. As they sit around and eat, Penn says, "I'll know next time not to pack so many solar panels. They don't do us much good down here." Hazel returns his wry smile. When tears come to her eyes, he reaches over and takes her hands. The heat sedates the kids. They play listlessly or watch kid videos with flat expressions. The adults join a group chat. Hazel says, "We're over by Lawton and Montgomery." Nellie says, "We're in the Linwood substreet." Nellie's face gives off an eerie glow, and the road support beams above her look like bands of darkness. Hazel says, "Oh, that's like several blocks from here." Nellie says, "You said there's a ledge along the floodway?" Hazel says, "Yeah, and about a block away the road is torn up and filled with, I guess, stuff the storm blew into the hole, like cars and stuff. It's scary to be on the ledge because the winds are strong. The ledge is slippery. We can't get past the pile the wind blew in." Filipo says, "How are you on power? Did you know you can use Luton-bought batteries to power other things?" As Filipo talks, they can see the mostly dark road in a tunnel crowded with people, all dirty and showing all forms of unhappiness. Hume forms huddle and rock themselves. Penn says, "Our Luton-bot ran out of juice." Filipo says, "You said city bots are there. Did you try to get their batteries?" Penn says, "I've tried breaking them open with a hammer. I've assaulted them with every tool I have. They're tamper-proof." Filipo says, "At least you have your own space. It's scary here." People were civil the first few days, but now they're stealing and fighting for food and water. Most of the lights have gone out. Filipo is in his 60s, 70s perhaps. It's hard to tell these days. Some people in their early hundreds look like 80-year-olds. Hazel says, "Is there wind where you are? Your hair isn't moving." Filipo says, "Oh, storm doors on the ramps closed. I guess that doesn't stop people from using the pedestrian door to go outside." Pen says, "Why do they go outside? Isn't that?" Filipo says, "Suicide. It's suicide." Behind him, a shirtless man tries to stand but falls. Filipo continues, "I wish I could get where you are. I don't feel safe here." His voice gets real quiet. "Last night a guy shot everyone in his family and then he shot himself. It was just over there. People are acting a little less crazy today because everyone's scared shitless." While the guy was dying, 2 dudes fought over his gun. Pen says, "Do you have a map of utility tunnels? Me and my family are stuck out here." Filipo says, "No, I searched MedusaNet, but I haven't found anything like that." Hazel says, "How are you doing with food and water?" Filipo grabs tight to his pack, nods and says, "Yes. Hey, do you guys have rats? We have a real problem with rats." Side note: people can make video calls without having to aim cameras at their faces because they have tiny RF chips called VR dots implanted in key spots in their faces. Their canal links triangulate the chips to map expressions. The links also detect lighting and head movement and create photorealistic 3D portraits of the speaker. Just when they think it can't get any hotter, the temperature shoots up. Ash and Rose get heat sick and lie on the coats, hardly moving. Ash acts drugged. Rose can hardly speak. Hazel and Pen don't feel so good themselves. One of the bug-out trailers has cooling, so they empty it, put the kids inside and turn the cooling on, but it drains the hydrogen-powered generator. They go through 1.5 hydrogen canisters in one day, and the cooling system isn't built for such heat. At full blast, it brings the temperature down 2 degrees. Hazel says, "I don't want you to go." Pen says, "I have to. We only have 1 more canister." Pen crawls in a tube that carries power and fiber optic cables. The power cables are superconductors, so their cooling units, gray boxes, make it hard for him to pass. A stream of water flows 3 centimeters high on the tube floor, but drain holes don't let the water level get much higher. He wears thick gloves and socks taped around his knees. He doesn't bother with any kind of flashlight. Instead, he uses AR night vision. The heat makes him feel sick. Sweat drips off him in rivulets. He doesn't like to breathe too deep because it bakes his lungs. On a call, he says, "I think I'm at the end of the first block. I'm at the end of the tube and I'm looking into a small room, a junction box, I guess. Each side has a tube opening." Hazel says, "So only 5 more blocks to go?" He says, "I guess. There are a couple of tube bots here. How are the kids?" She says, "The same." He says, "If we can get wired power, maybe I can find an old fridge somewhere." She says, "Hope so." In the junction room, he walks in water that covers his feet, steps over the 2 cat-size hexapods, and reaches for the next tube opening. By stepping on a pipe, he can raise himself. He looks into the next tube and falls back, shouting, "Holy crap!" She says, "What happened?" He climbs back up and looks in again, this time keeping his head back. He says, "Rats." She says, "Rats?" He says, 5 or 6. They're walking away from me." He takes his long knife out of its belt holster and holds it as he climbs into the tube. He says, "Rats or no rats?" A few hours later he says, "I think I'm near the subway. This junction room is bigger. I think these are computers." She says, "Just don't get lost. Don't forget which way you came. You should turn left. After that, the station is 2 blocks. He says, "I haven't turned yet. There's a door here." He puts his hand on the handle of a half-height door and feels. It feels a little loose, like wind isn't tugging at it, nor is air pressure holding one direction or the other. He turns the knob and cracks it open. Dry, musty air enters his nostrils. He says, "Wow, I found a room." She says, "Don't get lost." He says, "Assist, map as I go." Assist says, "I'm sorry, I don't have that skill. Would you like me to search for it?" Pen says, "No." He loves Medusa, but the basic AI it uses can't do crap. In the sub-street, hundreds of people sit and lie on the road. The sound of the storm rages above. Most flooding goes down drains, but sheets of water flow down the walls and puddles form on the weave pavement. Thick square slabs rest propped up and give off light. Some shine bright while others dim to darkness. These panels are Britlight, a material that gives off light when holding a static charge. After the power went out, people pulled them out of the lights above and exposed the material. By rubbing fabrics together, they can build up static charge and apply it to the material, lighting it up until the static charges fade. The covered road stretches far and people camp out all along it. Some carry out bodies. 2 men carry a body to a wide flood grate that's been propped open. They drop the body into the raging floodwaters below. Scattered among the people, bots and machines are at a standstill because people have pulled out the batteries. Some wear clothes that give off light. Few move from their spots. As a rule, people keep to themselves. If someone tries to approach another, someone could get stabbed or shot. Whoever these people were before, data farmers, rich retired people, VR occupiers, personality workers, self-sustainers, drug addicts, VR and AI addicts, everyone's more the same now. Hopeless, scared, thirsty, heat-sick, exhausted. The heat pushes in from all sides. Babies scream. Drug addicts going through withdrawal bite their hands until they bleed. Filipo lies on the road staring up, wearing only boxers drenched in sweat. A rat runs past him. The heat doesn't punch him, but it makes him feel like he's been beaten. With a new heart and liver, he's held up well for a 72-year-old. But today it's getting hard to breathe. He spent most of his adult life working and living in VR, so getting stranded in RL really sucks. He misses Tinzo, his VR girlfriend. Before the storm, she wanted to reveal her real self to him, but he told her, "I already know you in this skin. I don't want to come down to earth. Let's live the dream. To me, this is who you are." He doesn't even wonder what her RL body is like. That's like wondering what someone's brain looks like. All brains look like wrinkles blobs. It doesn't matter. When he needs her, he can't reach her. He hopes she's okay. A hand touches his shoulder. He flinches. Pen, the food brewer, looks down at him and says, "I found you. How are you?" Filipo says, "Not good. A gang came through here last night and took all our food, water, and batteries." Pen says, "Oh no, man." He takes his backpack off and sets it by Filipo, who doesn't sit up. Rummaging through his pack, Pen takes out 2 waters. "Don't make a fuss about this. There are a lot of people here." Filipo rolls over and grunts as he opens a bottle and drinks from it. Pen looks out at all the people. He says, "The gang took all these people's food and water?" Filipo says, "All of it. One guy went at them with a broken bottle and they shot him. My ears still hurt." Pen takes out 2 filled plastic bags and says, "For you, I don't have much. You were talking about someone who makes cooling units?" Filipo drinks more water. It starts to come up, and he holds his hand over his mouth. After a moment, he says, "Yeah, he's a whiz. Someone had a prosthetic arm that wouldn't work because the subscription key was offline. He broke the subscription on it and got it working." Pen says, "Is he on Medusa? Can I have his contact?" Filipo says, "Sure." He opens one of the bags and pulls out an object with the shape and feel of a brownie. When he bites into it, the taste of burger makes his saliva glands come to life. Murch floats through memories. At the game hall, he has 20 terminals and he's open 12 hours a day. There are a couple of kids who are in there all the time. Eddie, a white kid, is one. And Marcus, a black kid, is another. They both freaking do amazing. Marcus says, "Why do I always get a new character after I get a character up to level 3? Murch says, "It's no secret I sell level 3 characters. That's how this business stays running." Lots of people don't like the slow grind it takes to get to level 3. Marcus says, "But I want to take a character to higher levels." Murch says, "Those don't sell as well. They sell for the same amount as 3rd level characters. I'll tell you what, every time you get a character to 3rd level, I'll let you play your own character for, let's say, 8 hours. It takes most kids a couple of weeks to get a character up to 3rd level. Marcus can reach 3rd level in a few hours. He could be a pro. Murch uses an open source app a hobbyist wrote that records humans performing tasks and uses the data to train standalones. With the app, Murch records all the kids' gameplay. It's a huge amount of data. He wants to make an AI that'll get characters to level 3. The problem is the game kicks out AI who try to play as real people. It has ways of sensing AI. He wants to create an AI that'll seem human to the game. The first time he tries an AI trained on the data, it gets kicked out. He spends more time collecting the data this time. After collecting a year's worth of data, he'll use it to build a new AI that'll seem human to the game, and then he can make 10 times as much, probably more. Murch lies on his side in the sub-street tunnel. He hasn't eaten or drunk water for days, and the tunnel slowly spins. A Brit light flickers beside him. He rubs 2 clothes together, takes a wire coming off one corner of the cloth, and touches it to the material. Its glow brightens. His girlfriend Tony packs a backpack. A tall man approaches and says, "Murch, is that you?" Murch grabs a pocket knife that lies beside him and tries to sit up. The man kneels and says, "I'm Penn. I heard you can hack things." Murch nods. Penn says, "My kids are heat sick. I heard you made some cool suits." Murch says, "You can see what I'm wearing was a tent. That hose blows cool air into it. We were making cooling units and trading them for food, but now all the food and water is gone." Penn sits cross-legged, leans in close, and whispers, "I have a pack here full of water and brewed foods. It's all yours for that tent." Tony overhears and starts to cry. Penn says, "Why's she crying?" Murch says, "The gang said that femmes can come see them, and if they're lucky, they can earn food and water." Penn thinks of Hazel and his chest tightens. He speaks quietly. "She doesn't have to do that. I can teach you how to make brew foods. All you need are containers, and do you have a source of plants?" The two look at Penn with perplexed expressions. Penn says, "Of course you don't." "Okay. I know how to get to the flood channels that run under the streets. I'm able to fish plant material out as it flows by. It can be any kind of plant, including branches. And I can teach you how to filter water." Tony sits and wipes her eyes with the back of her arm. She starts to fall over and catches herself. Penn says, "Who's the gang? Are they nearby?" Murch says, "They're at the Longfellow bus ramp, so about 2 kilometers from here." Penn says, "Do they come by often?" Murch says, "I don't know. They took all our goods, so do they have a reason to come back? I heard they broke into a giantess production center. Guard bots there have killed many of them. That's just what I heard today." Penn takes off his pack and unzips it so Murch can see its contents. "My kids need that cool suit real bad. What do you say about trading?" As Penn crawls back through the utility cable tube, he calls Hazel. "Hi, how are you guys?" The feed shows Hazel looking down, saying nothing. Penn says, "Hazel, how are the kids?" Hazel's face is so wet with sweat it's hard to see the tears flowing. She says, "Rose is with us." An urgency makes Penn's legs kick. The back of his head hits the top of the tube. He says, "And Ash? How is Ash?" She slowly shakes her head. He finds it hard to focus. Choking to speak, he says, "I'll be there soon." He moves forward, but his mind is lost. He almost takes the wrong tube. She stays on the call, but they don't speak. Both cry. Penn returns to the storage room. He opens up the converted tent over the inflated coat and turns on the cooling unit. It buzzes and cool air begins to fill the inside. Hazel places Rose inside. Rose groans, but otherwise shows little response. Her arms and legs are swollen. Penn touches Rose's forehead and feels branded when he feels how hot she is. The parents look at Ash's body so still. Penn holds back rage. He wants to shake Ash back to life. His arms tremble. Instead, he and Hazel hold each other. In the next few days, Rose shows signs of getting better. They take Ash down the utility tubes and place him in a recess. They cover the recess with a board. Penn says, "We can visit him." As Penn and Hazel pour purified water into plastic bottles they can use to trade, Filipo calls, "Where are you guys?" The scene streaming over his video call shocks them. Screams and shouts erupt all over the tunnel behind him. People lunge, kick, hit, and go after each other like animals. Penn says, "We're in the storage room. What's happening?" As Philip talks, he moves fast, but his face remains in the foreground. He says, "I don't know. Everyone just lost it all at once. It's like a frenzy. Can you tell me how to get to the storage room?" Behind him, fights flare up between hundreds of survivors. People wield knives, throw bricks, swing planks, and fire guns. Others cower or flatten themselves against the road. Penn says, "Past the ramp, look for where pipes come out of the wall. The opening to the utility tube is there." Filipo runs and says, "Okay." His feed cuts out. Hazel says, "What was that?" Penn says, "I don't know." Both look down with scowls and open mouths. She says, "We're lucky we aren't there." When Penn tries to call Filipo, he doesn't answer. A notice pops up that says, "The person you're trying to reach shows signs of a medical emergency. Please come to his aid." Penn says, "Will anyone be left when the storm ends?" Hazel breathes out shakily. She says, "Is the storm ever going to end?"
Thank you for listening. Please take the time to rate, review, and subscribe so that more future-minded people can find this show. My landing page is in 20xx.com. There, you can find the companion website to this podcast that includes an illustrated timeline and glossary.